When the members of the Northern House of Assembly met together on the 16th of February 1959, it was probably the most historic occasion in the history of Nigeria. For this was the day when the Self-Government Bill was to be ratified. For Al-Haji Sir Ahmadu Bello, Sultan of Sokoto and Premier of the region, it marked the culmination of years of planning and hoping and striving, of conferences in London, and at home, the solid preparation needed to ensure that northern Nigeria advanced in good order. His Excellency the Governor, Sir Gawain Bell, arrived at the House of Assembly to open the session. He and his predecessors had played a large part in steering the North towards the goal of self-government, and the whole of Nigeria towards full Commonwealth status. As His Excellency inspected the Guard of Honor, mounted by the Queen's Own Nigeria Regiment, he must have had in the forefront of his thoughts the great constitutional changes which have occurred since 1944, when Sir Arthur Richards, now Lord Milverton, said, "The problem of Nigeria today is how to create a political system which is itself a present advance and contains the living possibility of further orderly advance. The solution has been found. This great and varied country, with its diverse people, by its own efforts and the help of well-wishers in the United Kingdom, has advanced in good order to the status of a self-governing territory. Its future has been shaped by its past, and its past by the land and the rivers and the many races who dwelt there. Today, towns have grown up where once the camel train stopped. The rivers retain their importance, but now great bridges span them. The people still pursue old crafts and trades, but 20th century agriculture has the backing of science, of marketing boards, with resulting increases in both the quality and quantity of crops. Northern Nigeria is a land of latent riches, where by wise husbandry the earth can be made to yield its goodness, where old trees are felled and planted anew. It is a land, too, of great contrast and natural beauty. The deserts of the far north give way to the waterfalls of Abuja, which were old when time began. No territory of comparable size, Nigeria is 3 times as large as the United Kingdom, numbers among its people such a diversity of tribe, language, and religion. Yet all go about their work living together in peace. The tribal differences of years ago are forgotten in the quest for orderly advance. Yes, in this and countless other ways, northern Nigeria has proved herself to be ready for the responsibilities of self-government. Old arts are cherished, old culture preserved. traditional rhythms of the past come easily to the young feet and bodies of girls from Maiduguri Provincial School as they perform a Dumas dance. These girls, like more and more of the youth of the region, are receiving a modern education. In them, and countless thousands like them, are fixed the hopes of the future. The hopes of continuing orderly advance towards greater happiness, health and prosperity for all the peoples of the North. The people of the North live primarily by agriculture, tending the cattle which are their wealth. Past history and modern thought blend together to all the boundaries of the region. In the far northeast corner can be found the fishermen of Lake Chad, pursuing their trade as they have done for centuries, different from their fellow countrymen from Sokatu, Jebba, Makurdi in almost every way. Yet all are the people of northern Nigeria. All have worked together without thought of race or creed to make self-government possible, to lay the foundation on which to base a constitution which will give the living possibility of further orderly advance. And so to Lugard Hall on Saturday, March the 14th, 1959. The night of the transfer of responsibility, the night of self-government, the night that was to make history. At this meeting, the last major phase of the preparations for the Commonwealth status of the Federation of Nigeria could be said to have been completed. The Council of Ministers, headed by the Sudana, received the title deeds of self-government. They held the future of their peoples in trust. That night, the night for celebration. The Premier was saluted in fireworks. No wonder there was rejoicing. Soon there would be full membership of the Commonwealth of Nations under Her Majesty the Queen. At Lugard Hall next day, Sunday, the crowds assembled to watch the ministers and members of the legislature arrive for the ceremonies in the House of Assembly. Then the Premier arrived, Alhaji Sir Ahmadu Bello, leader of the Northern People's Congress, the majority party in the House. And then His Excellency the Governor, Sir Gawain Bell, KCMG, CBE. He was greeted by the Sudana. The Governor and the Premier were to address the large crowd from the balcony of Lugard Hall. Sir Gawain spoke first.
In accordance with the agreement reached with Her Majesty's government last October, that the Northern region should achieve self-government on March the 15th of this year, I have handed over, as part of that agreement, the presidency of Executive Council to Alhaji Sir Ahmadu Bello, Premier of the Northern region. In the speech from the throne at the opening of the budget session last month, I said that we were profoundly thankful that we had reached this stage in the constitutional development of the region in peace and friendship. I would like to repeat that now. We thank God that it is through agreement and by trust and mutual respect that we have come to this present happy conclusion. Many have contributed during the past 56 years to all that we now see before us. A measure of prosperity, peace, and a determination to go forward into the future with courage and confidence in God's guidance. I would like first to remember the pioneers from Lord Lugard onwards who laid the foundations, and then those who have since been instrumental in building up the structure of what has now become a great self-governing region. In doing so, I would like to pay tribute to the civil servants of all branches of government, to the native authorities and their staffs, and to the politicians, whether they be supporters of the government or members of the opposition. All have helped to create this body politic. Remember that without God's help, nothing can be achieved. And may this region go forward in the inspiration of its motto, work and worship.
The Premier replied,
"In the name of God, the compassionate and the merciful, let thanks be given to God everywhere in the northern region of Nigeria for the blessing of self-government which we have received this day through his help, and for the blessing of progress which has long been a feature of our lives within this region. In our prayers, let us also beseech Almighty God for continued and peaceful progress, and for the furtherance of the prosperity and happiness of the people of this land. As I speak to you on this historic day, I am beset by many emotions. The emotion of gratitude. Gratitude to Almighty God that I have been spared to be of service to my people and to lead them towards this great event in our history. The emotion of humility, humbly conscious of my own limitations and of the pressing need for every one of us to give of his best now and in the future, even more than we have done in the past. The emotion of pride. Proud that I and my colleagues have succeeded in the face of many difficulties in the aim of acquiring self-government as soon as it was practicable. And finally, the emotion of joy. Greatly rejoicing that I can share with all of you this day an immense feeling of relief and contentment at the successful outcome of our advance towards the creation of a self-governing northern region of Nigeria. But it remains for me to express our keen anticipation of May the 15th, when we shall officially celebrate this day. We shall then welcome and be honored by the presence of their Royal Highnesses, the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester. We shall also welcome many high dignitaries, both from the United Kingdom and from other countries. Sharing in our celebrations, there will be present, in addition, many of the distinguished government officers who have served us long and so well in the past. On May the 15th, we shall not forget our young men and women in training overseas. Although they will not be with us, we shall most certainly be thinking of them. For on them, in years to come, will we rely for the successful attainment of our next objective. That objective I can see clearly before me now. It is to secure and improve the health, prosperity, and happiness of all our people without discrimination on grounds of tribe or creed. And finally, to establish our country in a position where it will be a model of progress, goodwill, toleration, and freedom, not only to Africa, but to the whole world. May God grant that his blessing shall always be with us in our endeavors.
Not long after, the Premier was in Sokoto. He had flown there immediately after his speech at Lugard Hall, and now he inspected the native authority police before the start of a celebration Durbar. The proceedings opened with a smart march past by the police. In both slow and fast time, they demonstrated that policemen know how to march on ceremonial occasions. sound of the horn signaled the start of the Durbar proper, and horsemen and crowds, musicians and dancers from all around did their best to make it a Durbar to remember. The last rejoicing before the Salah which ends Ramadan. The main part of the self-government celebrations, at which His Royal Highness the Duke of Gloucester was to represent Her Majesty, would follow afterwards. Meanwhile, this was Durbar Day. Horsemen paid tribute to the Sodana in their final spectacular jibe. Meanwhile, preparations for the main rejoicing and the royal visit were going ahead. The old grandstand went with a bang, making room for a new one, and the racecourse at Kaduna, where their Royal Highnesses were to watch the big celebration Durbar, at which every province would be represented. The site for the camp was being cleared, and trees had to be felled in the process. The housing of so many people and so many animals was a major administrative problem. 11,000 men and 3,000 horses were expected to take part, though the final numbers were larger. And the camp was to cover some 360 acres in all, a self-contained, if temporary, town. Work, too, was going ahead steadily, preparing the site for the Kaduna exhibition. Then, at the end of Ramadan, the Sultan of Sokoto journeyed to the praying ground. He led his people in prayer at the end of the most sacred of Muslim festivals, the holy month, during which the Quran was communicated to Muhammad while in meditation in the cave at Hira. Prayers were finished, Ramadan was over, and the self-government rejoicings could begin. The Sultan chatted with the resident and with many other people before he returned to his palace. For 30 days, devout Muslims had refused all food and drink between dawn and sunset, except in the case of sickness. Now the fast was over, and the Sultan's procession back was a spectacular affair. Large crowds had gathered outside the palace to hear their leader's Salah message. He gave thanks to Almighty God at the end of this Ramadan, which has had so much significance for his people. He implored them to be strict in what they did, for the future of their country depended on it. Their good behavior would be of the greatest importance to all.
Ya jama'a ina gaishe ku duka ina yi muku barka da shan ruwa. Ina roƙon Allah maɗaukaki ya karɓar mana azuminmu, ya ba mu ladarsa, ya zamo mana sanadin tsira mu duka. Amin.
During Ramadan, of course, normal life and work went on, and registrations were made for the federal elections, which were due at the end of the year. The coming of self-government and full Commonwealth status put on each voter an added responsibility to study all aspects and vote according to what he sincerely believes to be right for his country. The end of Ramadan was celebrated all over the land. There was a Salah at Bida. This was attended by His Excellency the Governor and Al-Haji Alio Makaman Bida, the Finance Minister. The procession itself was full of colour and gaiety. Bida is a place of ancient crafts and ways of life, and the 1959 Salah demonstrated, as nothing else could, the traditions of the North. The governor was accompanied by the Etsunupe, the emir of Bida, and together they went inside. Ingredients of northern life and custom. The pageantry and costume handed down through the centuries. The gaiety and the rhythms of long ago translated into the 20th century for all to see and enjoy. The traditional ceremony had seemed to have even more significance this year, the year of self-government. At Lapai, there was another traditional ceremony, the turbaning of a second-class chief. Again, His Excellency the Governor was present as the stage was set for the age-old rites. The Governor spoke to the large crowd, which included many people from outlying places. As a distinguished visitor, he expressed his delight in being present on this particular occasion, to watch the turbaning, which was carried out as it has been carried out for centuries. Ceremony complete, the new chief made his way to the dais to address his subjects. They rejoiced with him on this his day. And as is the habit in northern Nigeria, they rejoiced with music and dancing. Meanwhile, preparations were still going on for the official celebrations of self-government. On the racecourse at Kaduna, the new stands were growing fast. Away at Nguru, horsemen were already setting out on their journey to Kaduna. The way would be long and hard, the going difficult, but there was none amongst them who would have passed by the opportunity to go to Kaduna for the celebrations. From Bukuru in Plateau, the province of Tin, another contingent was setting out, this time by train. On foot, on horseback, by rail and by lorry, those who were to take part in the Durbar were converging on the capital. It was to be the show to end all shows, the biggest of its kind since the visit of Her Majesty the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh in 1956. They were busy making the ceremonial clothing, which would bedeck the Niger contingent. And in Adamawa, the Lamido himself was there to see the personal goods of his followers being loaded aboard the lorries for their long, long journey. In all of the 12 provinces, there were similar scenes. The people were on their way to celebrate the self-government of their country. Meanwhile, in Kaduna, the racecourse was nearly ready for the great show. The stands from which thousands would watch were growing hourly. Ramadan was over and the celebrations would soon begin. Durbar camp was almost finished too. The huts consisted of steel frames, a corrugated iron roof, and grass matting walls. For building it, 30,000 mats and 20,000 poles were used. Soon the horsemen were beginning to arrive. Many had been on the road since late March, and it was now well into May. In spite of the hardships of the journey, there had been tremendous competition to be selected for a provincial contingent. Now they were in Kaduna at last, and there would be time for relaxation before the great day itself. They were coming into the camp in a constant stream, in a self-contained unit with its own market, administration, telephone exchange, and fire brigade. Soon settled down. As in all northern Nigerian towns and villages, and the Durbar camp was a town on its own, the market was the center of activity. Group tried to outdo the other in the quality of the entertainment it gave and the fun it had in giving it. The calabash players were hard at it. There were acrobats from Ilorin in the far west. plateau in the middle of the territory, Miango dances. Then, of course, there were the men who entertained by charming snakes, scorpions, and training hyenas. In the Durbar camp, they really came into their own, with what has been described as a most breathtaking spectacle. But the dancing was the thing one remembers best, and the Durbar camp was alive with music and rhythms which set the bodies swaying and the feet moving. These were Panchin or leopard dancers from Plateau. There were the young Kama dancers too. And the feather dancers, again from Plateau. Tiscombe contingent rehearsed under the watchful eyes of their emir. Contingent replied with its own display. Premier Alhaji Sir Amadou Bello came with the Emir of Katsina to see how his people were faring in their strange environment. He soon found that they were already very much at home and looking forward to May the 15th, the day of the Durbar. Centuries of tradition, handed from generation to generation, have molded the steps and rhythms of the Tiv dancers from Benin. The Adamawa contingent had brought with them a group of girl Kilba dancers. While from Bornu, the ladies were hard at it practicing the Dumas. Yes, life in the Durbar camp was anything but dull and quiet. As the day got nearer, the camp, which was situated behind the minister's quarters at Nasarawa, got fuller and fuller.